Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Finding Your Voice. This is Dr. Velma back in season 4, and this season is referred to as Faith on Fire. Finding Your Voice is a powerful platform designed for the everyday person. Our authors, they are entrepreneurs, ministry, and business leaders who have found their true inspiration and motivation for their assignment. And knowing all of this, we know that faith without works is dead. These folks have learned how and will share their stories based on their faith on fire because faith with works, faith with follow through, faith with action, that results in fire. So please welcome my guest today, my friend and my publicist, Cyrus Webb.
Hello, Dr. Velma. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the introduction.
I'm glad to have you, Cyrus, but I really didn't give an introduction. I didn't tell everyone about you because I wanted to leave it up to you. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell the audience about who Cyrus Webb is?
Well, thank you again for having me, Dr. Velma. So, Cyrus
Mhm.
Webb, I think, most people would know me as a media personality. I do television and radio as well as podcast. I'm a multiple published author. I also have the privilege of being an Amazon reviewer and influencer. And as you mentioned, I'm also a publicist as well as a business coach.
A very wonderful publicist. So I'm happy to have you as a part of my journey.
Thank
But
you.
my journey hasn't been as long as yours. So tell us about your building the Cyrus Webb brand and different phases and segments of it. What was that journey like for you?
It was an improbable journey, Dr. Velma. So I'm not one of these people who grew up seeing myself doing any of the things that
Hmm.
I'm known for. Growing up, I really just had two passions, writing and drawing. However, I have to be honest and say, I
Yeah.
had no clue what that was at the end would look like. I just knew
Hmm.
that wanted to be a part of my life. And I'm going to be honest and say, too, I never thought I'd be doing that full time. I
Yeah.
just wanted to be able to do it. Now, I've been able to have a journey that has allowed me to both write and draw and to do the things that I also mentioned. But it all began with realizing, for one, the power of my story, but
Yes.
also the power of the gifts that God has given me and being able to
Hmm.
find a way to use those not only in service of myself, but also in service of other people.
Well, one of my favorites of your books, and you have several books out, is Words I Choose to Live By.
Yeah.
And you highlight some segments of them every day on Facebook. What made you write that book?
So that book really began with changing my own self talk. Now, one
Mhm.
thing that I talk very openly about, Dr. Bama, because I think it's important for men, but especially men of color, to be honest about their challenges. I
Yes.
went through a time period when I did not love myself. I
Hmm.
didn't believe in myself. I didn't think I was worthy. Now, I want to let your audience know it wasn't that my family told me that. It wasn't that people were going around telling me that. It just was the story I told myself. I looked at myself as not being that special and not being someone who could do these things. So when I wrote the book Word That Choose to Live By, Dr. Bam, it actually began with me just, for one, being able to motivate myself daily. And
Hmm.
then I decided one day, you know what? I'm going to start sharing this on social media because maybe if it speaks to me,
Yeah.
it'll speak to someone else. So I started sharing them just as written messages on social media. And then I had a friend of mine, and I want to shout out my friend Deborah, because Deborah, who's a graphic designer, she then started taking and I don't even know if you know this part of the story, Dr. Bama, before it was a book, she would take my saying, she was so motivated, she would create a graphic for them every
Love
day.
it. Yes.
And she would then send it to me. And I said, Deborah, this is wonderful. Do you mind if I share this? She says, no, go ahead. And so I started sharing these graphics. Well, a friend of mine who's also a publisher, Sheila Bell, who
Hmm.
lives in Memphis, Tennessee. Used to be known by Sheila Lipsy, best-selling author. She had a publishing company called Benita and Hodge.
Right.
And she saw my post and saw the engagement I was getting. And she sent me a message on Facebook. I never will forget this. Don't post another one. I want to offer you a book deal.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
And that is how Words I Choose to Live By came about. So what started off as motivation and inspiration for myself daily,
Mm-hmm.
then became something I shared with the world, and now I'm able to share in the form of a book.
It's actually a powerful book. I enjoyed sitting on the platform with you and, of course, our another co-host, Tina Siemens, when we were actually presenting it alive.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
love that as well, because motivation is needed every day.
yeah,
Not everybody, just like what you said, not everybody walks into faith on fire. Sometimes we
right.
have to move into that process either by inspiration that we
Mhm.
receive from others, or it could be that something happens and you just take the jump, you take the leap. There are many things that you accomplished, Cyrus,
Mhm.
besides being a publicist, besides writing a book. You have a magazine, you have a
Mhm.
radio station. Why don't you tell us more about that? What inspired these other pieces that you've launched?
Yeah, so one of my biggest mentors, and she didn't know it initially. I did get a chance to tell her when I was building my business, when I realized this was a business, Dr. Vama, was Martha Stewart. And it's so
Mm-hmm.
interesting. I had read her book called Martha Rules,
Right.
and I saw how she talked about in that book how she started off as a caterer,
Uh-huh.
then she became a speaker, then she became an authority, sharing her tips on radio, television. Then she was able to build partnerships. And then she was able from there to be able to start her own magazine after she then was publishing books. And so I thought to myself, wow, she was able to build all of this
Yeah.
based on this one thing. So
Right.
I said, oh, well, I have my one thing, which is at the time I was doing speaking. And then I was given the opportunity in 2003 to start doing radio. And then in 2006, I then started the magazine that was based on the radio show.
Right.
And then in 2008, I started the podcast
Oh,
that allowed
wow.
me then to be able to record the interviews and share them in that format. And so
Right.
I start basically just took the Martha Stewart model and use it for my own thing. And I tell people all the time, there's nothing new under the sun. It really is about you taking something that fits you and then taking a proven method and making it your own. Martha Stewart was able to do it with cooking. I was able to do it with words. And
Right.
that's exactly how I've been able to build my platform now to now in 2026. I have my own radio network where I not only have
Yes.
my show on 7 days a week, but I'm also
Mm-hmm.
bringing other hosts on as well. So I'm being able to build that coalition, as you mentioned, even with the magazine. You're starting off with Conversations Magazine. Then we also have Mississippi Success Magazine. Then we have Something for Guys Magazine. So we were able to take that
Wow.
same model and to use it based on what I was already doing.
Well, I know you don't do all of this by yourself. What did you have to do in terms of building a team around yourself to help you to get this stuff done?
That's a great question. And I think, too, well, the challenge for me, because typically what people will tell you is to find someone who loves what you do, can
Mm-hmm.
do what you do, but also has a passion for it as well. Because the thing about my brand is that I don't do anything I don't want to do.
Yeah.
So anyone I work with has to have a passion, not necessarily for everything I do, but for the part that they're working on. So
Right.
I've never been afraid of finding people who were smarter than me, better than
Mm-hmm.
me, who had the time and energy to do certain things. There's
Mm-hmm.
no part of my business I don't enjoy, but you're exactly right. I only have 24 hours in a day. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
find people who I know can do certain components that will not only allow me to focus on being the face of this, but also the
Right.
principle of it too. So yeah, it's just being able to trust that people will do what they're doing. I'm not one of these hands-on type of people. Once
Yeah.
if I know you can do the job, I'm not heavy-handed. I just say, okay, this is what I need. If you can do that, then that's going to be great. But I'm also someone, Dr. Bam, I pride myself in making decisions quickly too. So I'm not someone that's going to spend time with people just because I don't want to hurt your feelings. I don't
Yeah.
have that problem. I
Right.
have to think about the brand first and what's best for the
Absolutely.
brand. And that's
Yes.
separate than how I may feel about you as a person. So
Right.
I think it's just being able to realize the importance of using my time wisely, but also
Mm-hmm.
bringing people into the fold who can take on certain tasks that will help me work more efficiently.
So what was your motivation in the very beginning, Cyrus?
My motivation in the very beginning was very selfish. It was just that I didn't want anyone to feel like their story and that who they were didn't matter. That
Right,
was it.
right,
So I didn't know I end up interviewing celebrities. I really thought I would just be sharing the stories of who I
right.
consider everyday heroes. In fact, it's so funny. I don't tell this story a lot of times, but I was actually recognized by our CBS affiliate here in Mississippi
Oh,
as an
wow,
everyday hero.
wow.
And because of my wanting to spotlight everyday people, because that's just my thing. I mean, the celebrity stuff all came later. That was not planned. That's just the way it
Right.
evolved. But my initial thing was just to let people know that their story matters. Maybe you're not in the newspaper, and maybe you're not on television or whatever, but I see you. I appreciate your contribution to the world, and I want
Yes.
other people to know who you are as well. That was my initial motivation.
Wow. Wow. Well, you definitely see the fire behind everything you've been doing.
Mhm.
Now, you said this, you made this statement when you work with your team and the people who support what you do. You don't tell them what to do. You don't push them into
Right,
doing what they're doing.
right.
You don't put the finger in
Well, I
their
didn't say
back.
that. I didn't say that. That part I didn't say. But no, I do. Look, here's the thing. I am not and I have joke about this sometimes. I'm a
Uh-huh.
person, I know what I know.
Yes.
I'm not one of these people who think I know everything, though.
Mm-hmm.
But the things I know, the things that I have shown, I have proof that it works.
Yes.
Those are the things that I stand 10 toes down on
Mm-hmm.
because I have the track record to show that if you do this, this does work because it worked for me. Now,
Right.
I don't try to force anyone, though, to do anything. I make suggestions to people based on what I have learned, but I leave it up to the person to then make decisions
And
about
you
what
do
they.
what? You make suggestions?
Yeah, that's what I do. I make suggestions,
Oh,
Dr. Velma. I
okay.
make
All right.
suggestions, and then it's up to the person whether they want to do it, the way that they want to do it,
Mm-hmm.
or if they would
Mm-hmm.
take the suggestions that I'm giving them based on experience
Uh-huh.
that has proven results behind it.
Okay. No
Yeah.
finger pointing, just suggestions.
Well, suggestions, there may be an occasional nudge.
In the back.
There may be. I'm not saying there is or is. There may be.
Got it. Got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Well, I think it comes from a good place. It comes from a place that,
Oh,
like you
always from a
said,
good place. Well,
experience.
yeah. Dr. Van, let me say this about that. And my
Uh-huh.
mother will attest to this.
Okay, I'm
If
gonna
I
call
did
her.
not, if I did not do it, that would show I didn't care.
I was getting ready to say that really, Cyrus, because it
Yeah.
shows that you care when
Yeah.
you're making
Because
those suggestions.
yeah. Because what I
Mhm.
have learned is my success is my success. I'm going to be good either way.
Right.
But I want other people to win. That's genuinely, I wake up every day seeing what I can do to help somebody else.
You
And
want
so
me to win, Cyrus?
I
As one of
do.
your
I do.
clients, you want me to
I
win?
I want you to win.
That is
That's
so
why
powerful. That's a powerful statement.
that's why I make suggestions.
I
That's
love
why
it.
that's exactly why I make suggestions. Now, and again, but you know what I've had to learn, and I teach my clients this and I teach it in my classes. I
Yes,
still do have to divorce myself from the outcome. Because
absolutely.
I can make suggestions, but at the end of the day, it's still up to the person
That's true.
what they decide to do, but and also when they decide to do it.
Right.
Because just because I tell them something today doesn't mean they're going to do it today. It may take them some
Right.
time to figure, okay, maybe I will try this out to see what happens.
Oh
Yeah,
no, I begin my research right away. So let me
yeah,
tell you, if Cyrus makes a suggestion, I get on it immediately. And
yeah.
even if it's a suggestion in an area that I'm not as familiar with, I make
Mhm.
sure that I'm learning as much as I can about that particular thing so that I can do the follow through. So,
Right.
no, I appreciate that. I
Mhm.
appreciate all your suggestions
Well, thank
to
you.
me. And everything that you've talked about speaks to what you have created over the years, but
Mm.
also something really special that happened last year in which you were acknowledged and your name is now mentioned in a particular book.
The Book of Life.
Well, yeah, your name is mentioned there too. But the Guinness
Hey,
Book
hey,
of World
look,
Records,
let's hope so.
Right.
But no, seriously, yeah, you're right. So can I tell you the backstory? I haven't actually talked about this. This will be an
Yeah,
exclusive for
tell
you.
me.
So, Dr. Velma, I am, and this will surprise a lot of people, but I'm a real person. I am known to self-sabotage.
Really?
Yes. That is something I've had to work on over the years. I am a person who, and again, this is going to sound foreign to some people, but some people will get this. I'm known to screw things up for myself purposely to slow down my own success.
Wow.
Because as I mentioned, yet remember, none of this was ever something I planned on doing. You know, some
Yeah.
people you
Yeah.
would want to be quote unquote famous or known, or that was never Cyrus Webb. Cyrus Webb is never, my parents, my family would tell you. I've always been the person in the cut, quiet. This is not a world that I aspired to be in.
Mm-hmm.
But this was the calling God had for me.
Yes.
And it is not something I reference Moses a lot, because when God gave him that amazing assignment, I do like Moses do. I find excuses. Well, I'm not the best person to do that. That this person's better. You know, I've never felt like I was the smartest one in the room, nor have I ever wanted
Mm-hmm.
to be. I've never felt like I was the biggest person in the room.
Yes.
But for the Guinness event, I set the goal. And I even said in the video, and I'll go back and I rewatch it sometime. And I don't know if you remember this. I got emotional in this particular video when I was talking about the Guinness event and the weight of what I knew would come after. And I even said in that video, I'm not worried about reaching the goal. I know I'm going to reach it. I've
Mm-hmm.
never doubted whether God had something for me or not.
Right.
My doubt has come as if Cyrus can handle it. Because let's be
Yes.
honest, everybody cannot handle success.
Right.
Everyone cannot handle wins. That's why most people who win the lottery go broke or end up, unaliving themselves.
Right.
People who get these big things, they waste it because they're not mentally prepared for it.
Right.
And they don't have the right people around them.
That's true.
For me, when it came to the Guinness event, I never doubted I would break it.
Mm-hmm.
I doubted whether I would allow myself to break it. And I got to the day of the event, and Melissa Banks, and I'm going to shout that she knows I never have told this story publicly.
Uh-huh.
I was running late that day. Now, I want you to think about it. So everything had to be on a time. I was running late that day. She was my lead as far as coordinating.
Yes.
And I felt myself slowing down.
Wow.
And I was, that day I woke up, the heaviness, not of okay, are you really going to be able to handle this?
Mm-hmm.
So when I got there, though, and everything worked out the way it did, and we broke the Guinness World Record, it was such a great feeling, Dr. Valman, not for myself.
Uh-huh.
And I said this at the end of the day. It was not even about me. It was about showing other people what was possible.
Right.
Regardless of where you're from, what people may say about you, what you may even think of yourself. These things are possible. And that's really what that date and what that honor recognition means to me, is that it really is the definition of faith. You doing your part,
yes,
and knowing that God is going to do the rest.
You do the rest. Now, was Melissa a motivator for you that day?
Melissa's always a motivator for me.
I know.
She's always a motivator for me. Now, she and I didn't talk about this part until after the event.
Okay.
About what I was feeling. But yeah, she's always been a motivator. And here's the thing, like I said, the outcome of the day, I already knew what it was going to be.
Yes, yes.
But it was just if I was ready up here for the outcome.
That's true.
And that matters. Now, for some people out there, that may sound strange, but if you think about sometimes how we talk ourselves out of opportunities,
absolutely,
we talk ourselves out of it. The mind is a powerful thing. Now, here's one thing I knew not to do, though, Dr. Bama. I knew not to speak it.
Okay.
Because I knew if I spoke it, it would become a self-fulfilling prophecy that I wouldn't do.
Yeah, because that's what you declared.
Right. So that's why I knew to always speak. I know I can do this because I already knew I had everything, to do it. it was up here that was the biggest issue.
Wow. It's interesting that you say this because that was a area of my journey that I had to deal with in the very beginning, looking at, God, why do you want me to write about dating and relationship? The market is flooded with books on the topic. Why do you want me to talk about that? And still pressed my way. When I heard someone make the comment that there's an audience just for you, and that audience is waiting to hear your voice, what you have to say, how you're going to say it. None of the other writers and books that are out there right now is really what they're waiting to hear. They're waiting to hear you. Yeah. Then when I got to the place of writing, determining whether or not I was going to follow through on writing the book about my husband and I, same thing. There's a lot of people out there talking, and my husband is not one who wants to be on the camera. So I had to kind of think about me managing any kind of interest in the book with me handling it myself. And so I contemplated whether or not that was something important to do at that time. And I made the decision, it is. It's important for us to pull back the curtain and let people see how people are able to manage their lives in a marriage and how we choose each other every day. And so I hear what you're saying. Then I thought in the very beginning, everybody else is a lot younger than you. Why do you have a podcast? Why do you talk about what you're talking about? So I hear what you're saying, Cyrus. We have to chase away those negative Neds and negative Nancy thoughts, because if we don't, we can't fulfill what God has told us to do. And that's why we have to keep that faith on fire and keep believing that this is exactly what I should be doing. Right. Who cares what the outcome is going to be? As many times I tell myself, who cares? As long as I'm being obedient and doing what I've been called to do. And if one person says, I really like what you said on blah, blah, blah that day, then I feel like I've, mission accomplished.
Right. And I mentioned Moses earlier. I took time to study Moses because I really felt like that was a good connection to myself. Yeah. Well, Moses and David. Yeah. Especially when Samuel came to David's house and was looking at the attractive brothers and looking at and he's and Samuel thinking, okay, well, surely this is who God
they looked more kingly.
Right. But Moses, because of Moses particularly talking about his speech, talking his about
impediment.
As someone who grew up with a speech impediment. See, I connected with that. I grew up with a heavy stutter. So I think about Moses a lot, how in the beginning he needed Aaron to speak for him, but by the end he could open up his mouth and speak himself. And I think that is the thing that I had to learn, that I had to trust God enough to know if he had given me these gifts, given me this assignment, that he wouldn't just lead me out there. He would be able to be there with me, to help me in what I needed to help with, as long as I was willing to open up my mouth and do the work.
Well, you know what? Not many people talk about the fact that Jesus was questioned because of the area of the town that he had grown up in, very poor, who also had their own dialect. They didn't like the way Jesus spoke. And I thought about growing up in a poor neighborhood too. I had to teach myself proper English because I had some of the same dialect the poor folks in my neighborhood had. And it made me think about what happened to Jesus. Same thing. He grew up in a poor neighborhood and they were known for their specific dialect and the way they spoke. So he was judged because of that. So me too had some similar experiences, Cyrus, and even the characters in the Bible that you mentioned that we can relate to. Right. And it helps to keep us inspired because they didn't stop. They kept going.
And that's really the big thing. That's why I mentioned what I mentioned earlier, Dr. Velma. I want what Cyrus Webb has done, and I've been blessed to do a lot.
You have.
I want that to be an inspiration for some young boy or girl out there who may have, I'm the first one in my family to do any of the things I've done. Right. Writing books, being in media, doing, traveling the way. No one else in my family does any of this.
Right.
But I realized that because I didn't see it, didn't stop me from being able to do it. And I want other people out there to realize just because you don't see it around you, if you believe God has given you something to
Yeah.
do, he will equip you, whether it's
Yeah.
virtually or in person, or through broadcasts like this. He will equip you with what you need to be able to fulfill the assignment.
That's beautiful. I love that. That's actually wonderful closing to our conversation, because that's the bottom line. Many of us who question our calling in the beginning, that's exactly the things that I needed to hear at the time. Because
Yeah.
again, I questioned my age. Even when I started was only 8 years ago.
Wow.
Even then I was going, okay, wait a minute, God, I'm in my 60s. What can I do now? And
Mhm.
so it's interesting that you said that in your closing, that somebody who needed to hear that needs to hear it, that it's not too late if it's an age thing. Neither is it something you should fear about
Right.
or be fearful of, because if that's what you've been called to do, then you should step out there, like you said. So,
Right.
Cyrus, is there any other wisdom you'd like to leave the audience before we end our conversation? It's been fantastic, and I really appreciate all the things you've said today.
Well, I want to thank you again for the invitation, Dr. Velma. And the only thing I would say is to believe.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times the world will beats us up and will tell us who we're not
Yeah.
and what we can't do,
Right.
and who do you think you are. But you just have to believe that
Yeah.
God has given you something that he hasn't given anyone else. And just like you mentioned, Dr. Bama, yes, there are other authors out there. Yes, there
Yes.
are other speakers out there.
Yes.
Yes, there are other books, on
Mm-hmm.
this topic, but no one is you, and that is your power. And I think that is the thing. I mean, it's not lost on me that Jesus had 12 disciples, and they
Yeah.
all were different. Some of them we know a
Yes.
lot more about than we know about the others, but
Right.
they all had their own place. They all
That's
had their
true.
own purpose. And I think that's the same for all of us. Never,
Yes.
never mistake the fact that you don't have something that the world needs. And please don't shortchange yourself and others from that gift,
Yes.
because that gift is something that is meant to be shared. And if you do it, God can definitely multiply it.
Well, I always emphasize the importance for those who are concerned about how old they may be and how late in their life they may be beginning to follow through on their vision and goal and believing in what God has given them to do. I just inspire them, because learned experience is very valuable.
Yeah.
And so don't feel that you have less to offer because of your age. Learned experience has a lot of value. And I
Right.
want to thank you, Cyrus, today for being on the show. And you've inspired me again
Oh,
to
well, thank
keep
you so
going
much.
and to keep moving forward. And I want to thank you. Please make sure you connect with Cyrus. The information to do so is down at the bottom, cyruswebb.com. And I just want to thank all of you for listening and tuning in. Have a wonderful rest of your day.